Thank you so much for staying with us. Time now for our conversation this morning. Remember, we are asking you, would you consider donating your eggs for IVF? And for the men, we want to know what your thoughts are. And I must say there's a lot of feedback coming in already, which I'll be sampling in the course of this discussion. But keep it coming at Grace Kuria KE at KTN News KE. And my daktari is here with me in studio. Karibu sana, Dr. Kireki Omanwa. He's an obstetrician, gynecologist, and a fertility specialist. Karibu sana, daktari.
Thank you very much, Grace, for inviting me to the studio this morning.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I'd like us to start with discussing the alternative forms of conceiving, apart from the one most of us probably know, that is intercourse. Because when we mention IVF, most people don't even know what that is.
Yes.
We're talking about egg donation, which we'll get to. But let's first of all address this other means of conceiving, forms of conceiving rather, apart from intercourse.
Thank you very much. Now, maybe before we get into the alternative forms of conception, maybe just a brief rundown about the situation about infertility in this country. Kenya, or rather Kenyans, have a huge problem with infertility. The numbers are basically out of this world because it is approximated, and these are conservative estimates, that about between 15 and 20% of the Kenyan population is actually affected with infertility. Now, when you talk about infertility here, we are talking about whether you have primary infertility or what we call secondary infertility, where primary infertility is a situation whereby a couple has not been able to get pregnant at all in a period of 1 year, even though they have regular intercourse, and they're not using any contraception. In secondary infertility, the couple either have a child or have children, or the lady has been pregnant before, and they're trying to have another pregnancy which has not occurred. And again, in a period of 1 year, there's regular intercourse and there's no contraception, and the lady is not breastfeeding on a regular basis, because regular breastfeeding can actually act as contraception in some cases. Now, if we look at the Kenyan population, which is about 48 million, give or take, 15% of 48 million, 10% is 4.8 million, 5%, that is half of 4.8, that's 2.4, put them together, it's about 7 point something million. That is the scope of the problem. A huge, huge problem. Now, some of the, before we even get to the alternative ways of getting pregnant, maybe we can just briefly look at what are some of the causes of infertility.
Let's talk about the age bracket.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Age bracket affects women more than men. Men get affected later on, but women, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but that is the way biology is, women are born with a set number of eggs. And this number of eggs decreases every month. So every month a woman has a period, she loses about anywhere between 300 to 700 eggs. Now, if we start our periods, if ladies start periods at around, let's say around 13, 14 on average, by the time they get to 35 years, they've had periods for 20-something years. So imagine every month you're losing about 500 eggs on average for 22 years. That is why age is very important. When ladies get to 35 and above, the chances of getting pregnant actually drop drastically, again because of what I've just mentioned. When they get to 40 or after 40, around 40 years, if a woman has not had a child, the chances of her getting pregnant, either naturally or using other methods, is about 3%. When you're 45, the chances of you getting pregnant is about less than 1%. So it's a huge, huge problem. Now, apart from that, here we're talking about the number of eggs which are still, remaining, what we call ovarian reserve. But then we're also talking about the quality of the eggs that remain. The older we become, the poorer the quality. So that is why it becomes very difficult for mature women, I don't want to use older women, mature women, to get pregnant, especially if they are getting pregnant for the first time. Now, we will always talk about, my mother got, children until she was 40-something. My grandmother got my children until she was, whatever age it was. But here we are talking about two different things. They started getting these children earlier, and they got many of them. But now, because economically and socially, I think there's a shift. Because I was talking to my students the other day, I teach at the University of Nairobi, say by the time they're in 5th year medical school, they're about 23, 24, 25. When they finish medical school, they're 26. They go for internship for 1 year, they're 27. They need to work for another 2 years before they come back to do a master's degree. So they come back when they're about 28, 29. By the time they finish 4-year rigorous training, they're 30-something, 32, 33. They need to work for 2 years before they can actually get their specialist training certificate, that now you can actually go and work as a consultant. They're already 35, 36. And if they did not get married or did not have a child in that training, and they start trying to have this baby at 35, 36, it's going to be a big problem. So that is a challenge. And then apart from that, of course, we have moved. Ladies have, as I said, socioeconomic factors. Women are not in the field, as it were, doing tilling of the land and, and so on and so forth. We are in an education system. Ladies are doctors, they're engineers, in all professions, as it were, in the corporate world as well. So by the time you get to the top, the pinnacle of your corporate, in the corporate structure, you are in the late 30s. So it becomes a problem.
Yes.
This is a problem which is was in the Western world, because I worked in London. That is where I trained in fertility medicine, and we saw a lot of women who actually they have achieved everything that somebody would really want to achieve. They've got the money, they've got the position, they've got the clout, and so on and so forth. But then once they reach the top, they wonder, okay, we have all this, but we don't have a child or children. And some would actually confess and say, Doc, I wish I could give all this so that I could have a child of my own. So this is something which is coming. We can see it coming in our societies. It hasn't reached the proportions that are in the Western world, but it is coming. But when it comes now to our setting, our setup, as it were, the bigger problem we are seeing with women is blocked tubes. And this is basically as a consequence of sexually transmitted diseases. So about 80%, I would say even 85% of the patients that I see who have issues with getting pregnant have an issue with blocked tubes. Either one tube is blocked, or both of them are blocked, or they have fluid, and so on and so forth. So that is another issue. The other issue is issue of having fibroids. Fibroids is a very common problem amongst African women, or women of African descent for that matter. 40 to 60% of women of African descent will have fibroids sometime in the reproductive period. The question is not so much as the fibroids, but the position where they are and the size as well. Because you may have fibroids which are outside the womb, but what you call the cavity, that is where the baby normally implants, is fine. So they should not be a problem. But by and large, if the fibroids are 5 centimeters or more, they should be removed, because when these ladies get pregnant, these fibroids are going to grow, and they will increase the volume of the uterus, and this can actually lead to either premature deliveries or even miscarriages. Now, the fibroids can distort the uterus to such an extent that even the sperms may need to be able to swim to get to where the eggs are, that is in the tubes. They can lead to the blockage of the tubes, and so on and so forth. So that is a problem. And remember, it's about 40 to 60% of our ladies who have this problem. We have another problem of what we call polycystic ovaries, which leads to an imbalance in the female hormones. Very irregular periods, low libido, and an increase in what we call the male hormones, androgens, and so on and so forth. About 15 to 20% of the young ladies that I see between 20 and 30 years, have this problem of polycystic ovaries. We have what is called endometriosis, and so on. A huge problem as well. About 10 to 15% of the patients who have infertility have this problem as well. Let's not even talk about the other social factors, the way we eat, what we drink, and so on and so forth. Increase in BMI and so forth. Lack of intercourse, etc., stress, and so on and so forth. It's a myriad of reasons why we have infertility in women.
What we eat, that's what has been running, in my mind. I think we would have, we want to discuss that.
Yes.
Lifestyle. Because you mentioned that those days,
Yes.
our mothers, our grandmothers that have children at a young age and
Yes.
even have them at 40, 45. Yes. But nowadays, that is sort of like becoming impossible, if I would say.
Yes.
Is lifestyle a factor to this?
Lifestyle is a big factor. Look at the way we are eating. We are eating completely different. Look at the things that we are eating. We are eating completely different things. Look at what we are doing as exercise. Our parents, our grandparents, they never had the luxury of vehicles and so on. They would work in the fields. So they were very active physically. So whatever they ate was actually utilized, as it were. But we have, look, I can take an example of myself. From home, I drive to work. And everywhere else, I try to do it in such that I park in one place and then do the walking from one hospital to another, which does help me. But you'll find them people who don't do that. It has been made even easier by the easy, I have an app, I can call a taxi anytime, from here to point B and so on and so forth.
You don't have to go to the bank.
I don't have to go to
access your money.
Exactly. So we are more sedentary. And then look at the way we eat. The characteristics of our eating habits, they have also changed. In the morning, because we're in a hurry to beat the traffic, what we do, we wake up early, maybe get a slice of bread or whatever it is, and we are off. So it has affected us. It has affected us, how we eat, what we eat, and then what we do after that. More ladies and more gentlemen have actually a high BMI, and this does affect our fertility.
Okay. Doc, let's talk to one parent. Esther, I had told you about her. She is an IVF parent, an in vitro fertilization parent. And Esther, thank you so much for talking to us today. I'd like us to start with you sharing your experience. When was this? And of course, how was it? Just share your experience with us, Esther.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be on the interview process. I'm Esther, as he has already said. I got the infertility problem the year 2007. I was tested. I was told that my tubes are blocked. And I went. But I think it is the major problem was that maybe I got infection when I was in the primary school. And what my parents would tell me, apply some oil, apply some oil so that you don't have friction between your legs or your private part. I think that is why I got my problem. But now today, the year 2013, I went to Dr. Lore and I was able to get twins. I'm having a baby boy and a baby girl. And, children are never enough for a mother. I went back again in the year 2019, and I'm a happy mother of a baby boy again. What I would like to tell all mothers, it is possible. You don't have to get discouraged. You don't have to feel the pain, the depression, and the hatred that is there in the society. It is possible. Let's give it a trial. It is so encouraging. And my heart is full of joy. I don't know how I can draw it. I don't know the words that I can use. But I'm telling you, it is joyful to be called a mother when you have been barren for so long.
Wow, Esther, congratulations. 3 babies there. We are happy for you. But I'm curious about your partner and when now you decided to go the IVF way. If you could take us through that, Esther.
My dear, I was divorced the first time because I was not able to bear children. In my second marriage. And I can tell you, women are suffering in this country. I've tried all my best to talk even to the insurance companies and that. I can tell you women are suffering. You are divorced. You are neglected. You are hated just because you can't bear children. And maybe it is not your problem. It might be the man's problem. But the society does not see the man. They see the woman. That is how I was before.
Wow, Esther, thank you. She's wrapped it all up. She's shared her experience with us. We appreciate Esther. Thank you for joining us live away of phone, and even the courage of talking to us, because it's never easy. I'd like to get your reaction on that, Doc. I know we may have interrupted our flow of thought.
It's okay.
But let's get your reaction regarding that, especially that bit where she talks about being divorced because of not being able to conceive.
Absolutely.
And most of the times, when you're married for, say, 5, 10 years with no child, society and everyone thinks it's the woman. But at times it could be the man.
Actually, it's very important that you brought that up. You remember what she said? She was diagnosed with blocked tubes. We talked about blocked tubes. She got divorced. She got into a second marriage. I had a case some time ago where a lady came and told me she has been in 4 marriages. And all those marriages should be there for 4, 5, 6, 7, maximum 10 years, and should be kicked out. And there was also violence because she was not able to conceive. So 4 marriages, she was in a 5th one, and she wanted to have a baby. Remember what Esther talked about? She was divorced because she couldn't get married. Now, society puts a lot of pressure on us as Kenyans, or not even Kenyans, actually worldwide, because I've worked in several countries, and it is exactly the same. If you can't get married, if you can't bear a child or children, you can't be called Mama so-and-so or Baba so-and-so, then you're actually, it's as if you're not a full woman.
Yeah, and even when you get a first child, they want a second child.
I know of a case whereby a very prominent, family, they couldn't get a child normally, and they had to go outside the country. They went and they did IVF, and luckily the lady got pregnant, came back, delivered a baby boy. Everybody wants a baby boy, so because now you are a man, and so on and so forth. And after 1 year, the mother-in-law said, "What's happening? We need another baby." And because of the pressure, they had to go again outside the country, went to the same place where they had IVF. They had what is called frozen embryo transfer, and luckily she got pregnant again. And she delivered a baby girl. And now everybody is happy. But they saw one thing, that they would never tell anybody that actually they went through IVF. So it is taboo to talk about these things.
Is there stigma associated?
Because of the stigma. Because you don't want to tell for example, gentlemen, that I'm not able to have a baby. And some of the friends would, in jest, they would say, "Boss, that sort of thing." Painful, very painful. Yeah. Spoken in jest, but it has huge, connotations. So there we go. So we have a problem. And again, women are perceived to be more infertile simply because women actually are the manifestation. So if they don't see your abdomen swollen, so you are the problem. I'm seeing a lot of men with what we call azoospermia, meaning lack of sperms completely, in the ejaculate. Every week, I see about 1-2 gentlemen who have no sperm at all in the ejaculate. A big problem as well. So it is a problem which society perceives that women are actually the problem, but for about 40% of the cases of infertility, it is actually the man who is a problem. The other issue with men is that we don't want to go out there and be tested. Unlike women are more social. They talk with each other. They connect very easily to each other. If they have a problem, they'll say, "I've seen Dr. X, I've seen Dr. Y, and this is what he did, this is what he suggested, and I was tested, and this is what happened." And they're very easy to accept solutions which are suggested, like what Esther mentioned. She said she went, after being tested, she had blocked tubes. The suggestion was to do IVF, and they went with it. She ran with it very, very quickly. Men were very, very cautious about that. To take that first step, to go and be tested, is a big problem. So we have these things which we really, as a society, we need to really have a discussion about.
Before we take a break, is there a right time, a suitable time to have these tests done? I don't know, 20, is there a right time for this?
I think different people look at this differently. Yes. Some people have actually suggested that, if I'm in a relationship, serious relationship, and we are planning to get married, then does it make sense for us to go and have ourselves checked? Just to make sure that everything is okay, such that we don't have sort of a, wow, we didn't see this coming. I think that is sensible. If you are in this relationship and you are really serious about getting married, I think it makes sense, such that okay, this is the baseline, this is where we are starting from. What are we going to do about this maybe in another year, 2 years, 3 years down the road? If we find that there is a problem, okay, at least forewarned is forearmed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. Okay, we need to take a break, but of course we'll be back with this conversation after the break. A lot of feedback regarding the question that we are asking on, would you consider donating your eggs? And for the men, your thoughts on that. Now we have one E or Chubi who says, yes, I can, because of the many people I see struggling to get a kid. The way I'm fertile, let the others feel loved too and cared through me. We have Philip Marube. He says, assisted reproductive technology has brought a smile on many families that could otherwise be agonizing without a child. However, it should be controlled and regulated to serve the purpose intended. There's more feedback, which I'll be sampling at the end of this program. So let's take that break. Stay with us.